Okay, this time last year I soaked and rolled these pieces of veneer because I made a large bangle using the CA glue and veneer rolling technique. Large bangles are very difficult because you have to make sure that the layers are all very tight together and neat, but rings are not so much. So I'm going to try and do some more rings, but being me, I'm going to complicate them slightly. I want to try and see if I can interlock 2 rings. I probably still have somewhere a silver ring which is made of 3 rings. I think it's called a Russian knot. And I think if I can get 2, then there's a possibility I can get 3 at a later date. So in terms of practice, this is kind of first stage. So first things first, I need to make a first stage ring. I've got 7 of the original rolls left that have been stuck on the shelf. Some of these didn't roll very well. You can see that one went very snappy and angular, so they may not roll very well the second time round. So here goes. I'm returning to the glue stick with some tape on the end to get kind of the first ring, and the second ring hopefully on once put together can go onto this dowel, which is slightly thicker, or slightly thinner than the glue stick, so I hope there's enough room to get 2 rings of the same size. That's the plan. So there may not be audio on this, so that might be a good thing. Right, so if I start with ones that are slightly better rolled, some of these are quite breakable, quite fragile. Probably should have oiled them or waxed them or something before I rolled them. But this was quite early in my veneer rolling escapades. So I'm just going to put that onto the end of my glue stick. Keep the rest of it separate like that. And then just for a start, I'm going to put a drop of glue just there. That should catch the first roll, and then just work my way down, rolling this as tight as I possibly can on a glass surface so it's smooth. Okay, that seems solid enough for now. So I'm going to stand it on its side and just drip a little glue down through the layers like that. Next, so I wouldn't normally start with the outside of the roll, but I think I need to on these. So I'm going to thread that onto my first ring and just feed it round like that. Pull in the sides somehow, tighten it up. Nope. First roll tight enough, dot of glue and hold it in place to pin that first roll in. Not entirely sure if this is going to work, but we shall see. I'm in the process of kind of final sanding on these. Traditionally with a veneer bangle like this, you do everything in CA, including the finish. But I think trying to finish these without getting them completely glued together is going to be virtually impossible. So I'm going to go with some wax instead. So I've got one ring to go, and that's just about big enough to go on my little finger. So a little chunky. A couple more layers than I expected. I could carry on going around the inside with the sander and just take off a couple more layers, and then it might be, you know, sizable for another finger, possibly. Might do that. Haven't decided yet. I've got two sanded and ready for some wax. I made 4 of these in the end. This one is not going to be gifting at all because all 3 layers have got sizable gaps in. So I could probably get away with 1 with gaps in, but I think all 3 looks a bit rough. But I'll keep this as my shed ring, and it's a nice tactile thing. It's a bit of a fidget toy, really. That's kind of the intention. So yeah, that one's staying with me, and I've got 1 more to sand. Now sanding these has been interesting because you've got to kind of hang on to the 2 loose ones and push up enough so you can get around and inside with a Dremel tool, which is fun. But yeah, I'm getting through. Okay, so I've given everything a good sanding and a wash over with some white spirit, and this ring more like be good. Not much better. Okay, and this ring I have sanded in the corners to give it kind of a slightly kind of ring shaped contour, slightly curved over, and it's now slightly too big for my little finger, but not quite big enough for the ring. So it's almost a thumb ring, but that'll do. I think for a first actual serious attempt at making rings, that's pretty good. So this one is nicely set. I've given that a good sanding just to get it ready for finish. Essentially it's a ring and a ring with a hole in, so that's going to make an interesting kind of pendant. And then I've got my 4, I want to call them Russian knots. I can't find the silver ring I've got indoors, which is essentially the same thing, but 3 very fine silver rings linked together to make 1. And this is the same sort of thing, but obviously this is a little more rustic. So I'm going to put these going over with some wax. Now these are difficult shapes to get into. I did have some Q-tips around somewhere, but I can't find them, so I'm going to go with a little bit of felt fabric here. I'm just going to cut a smallish piece off, and hopefully I can get into all the corners with that. So I'm going to be really quite generous with it to begin with. So these aren't particularly difficult to make. The difficulty is, as I said before, in making sure you're not gluing the layers together. And I was using clamps and things to try and hold the rings apart, and tape and those kind of thing. I think I probably overcomplicated it as usual. And I really want to make some more of these, and I probably will. So yeah, this is a great project. It's a great little fidget thing. I am a fidgety person anyway, and I'm normally using kind of toys and pens and clicking pens and that kind of thing, and this is a nice, quiet, private fidget. And I think that kind of does what I was looking for. So that's this week's project, and I'll see you